everyone. Today we are going to talk about a phenomenon that has been occurring in Nigeria since 2022 or institutionalized in the year 2020. And this is the economic apartheid in Nigeria. How the service-based tariff system created a two-class, or I think is a five-class system. And in general, don't get me wrong, there are countries around the world that actually do have different class system for citizens. Like, there are some Middle Eastern countries that have citizen 1, 2, and I believe down to 8, right? Down in the Gulf. And they have this system of citizenship because, they want to keep the bloodline pure and they do not want immigrants or people outside their countries getting benefits that are supposed to be for their citizens. So the invincible economic apartheid in Nigeria can be seen as when a state ties essential services by postal codes, right? And when I mean postal codes, I mean area of location, right? Like if you're based in Asokoro or Wuse or Maitama, it's safe to say your life is going to be so much better compared to those that are living in Mararaba or in Lugbe, right? And the funny part about the area code in Lugbe is it's on your way to the airport, right? Like you're flying past a little town called Piakasa. And then after Piakasa, you get to Lugbe. Then after Lugbe, you get to Kuje. And there are some other small towns and communities around there. But, those guys don't count, right? All the way from the national stadium down to the airport, you don't count. But the airport is also among the area, like, they need to regulate airlines, air traffic, the president flies through that airport. So it needs its amenities. So when you tie essential services that a government is to produce, right, with postal code, citizenship become a two-tiered system where there's like the upper class and then there could be the lower class, or people that are deemed to be seen as citizens that needs what they need and people that are deemed not to be seen as that, right? So today's topic is really going to emphasize on the electricity banding system in Nigeria, right? So they have the band A all the way to the band E, right? With A being the top preference system and E being not safe to say if you're in the E zone, that's a tough one. That's a tough one, right? So we kind of understand the whole idea why we're calling this an apartheid. We're not calling it an apartheid in sense of what happened in South Africa, but nevertheless, apartheid is an Afrikaner word that actually means an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one group, right? So we are going to link the clear definition of what an apartheid means in terms of how the new system of ban in Nigeria works. And according to the 2002 United Nations Convention, apartheid is recognized as a crime against humanity and is defined in their text as a systemic oppression and domination by one group over another or others by force or through the use of law. And through the use of law is the anchor of the invisible apartheid. Using the electricity. I'm going to call it NEPA. And the reason why I'm going to call it NEPA, this goes back to my childhood, right? Growing up, that Sunday, 8 p.m. on Sky One, when you're trying to watch The Simpsons, and just when you sit down, NEPA takes the light. That was my childhood. Very traumatic. Needless to say, I've seen worse times, but they have changed their name 3 times, right? They were NEPA, then they moved to Power Holding Company, and now they've moved to I have no idea what their new name is. I have read their new name a number of times, but in my notes, I just write it as NEPA. So when I call NEPA, you guys know who I'm talking about. Talking about the OGs, the people that used to like breaking your heart. It kind of reminds me of Ninetel. Does anyone remember when we had Ninetel? This was back in the days of You Got Mail or Yahoo, right? When you take out the cord from the house landline and you hold everyone hostage just to get on Cartoon Network. I'm talking about myself. Just to get on Cartoon Network to see what the internet is about. So we have come a long way with the internet. So back to the apartheid, right? Systemic oppression. The state sponsors domination by law against one group over another, right? So if you are, in Nigeria's case, we're talking about the upper class and people, the wealthy and the privileged. They're usually in the areas that has the band A. And if you're not too privileged, I guess you're going to be going to the band B, C, D, or E. All right, that's one step. Segregation by law. So depending on where you live and the line that goes through your neighborhood or your residency, that also determines the type of light you get. So we kind of have the baseline of what an apartheid means, and we kind of get the baseline that we're using the institutionalized law as an anchor to call it an invisible apartheid, right? That is just like, just creeping in and walking through the system. No one is really paying attention. Everyone is just going on and trying to get by their daily hustle and see how they can achieve something in life. Once in a while, the invisible apartheid wall hits and makes life a little bit rough, a little bit rough, right? So, brief history of the apartheid between 1948 to 1994, Population Registration Act of 1950, classified the citizens in South Africa, forced relocation, which is basically if you were Black, white, India, you all moved to different areas. Needless to say, the people of color, and most importantly, the poor people, right? Because most times segregation and discrimination is usually based on wealth, income, right? If you were born with the right bloodline, if you were born in the right household, if you were born with the right political connection, things tends to move smooth for you. But if you were not, good luck climbing that corporate ladder, right? Like you don't have the right names, you don't have the right people to back you. Needless to say, life's gonna be a little bit tough on your side.